This programming is sponsored by the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Care Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research. More at stlukeshealth.org/cancer.
This is the Engines of Our Ingenuity, made possible by the Friends of KUHF Houston.
Today, guest scientist Andrew Boyd makes music. The University of Houston presents this series about the machines that make our civilization run and the people whose ingenuity created them.
It was the first classical music recording ever to go platinum, a feat requiring the sale of over 1 million copies. The artistry was exquisite, the composer an acknowledged master. Yet the recording succeeded because it took an engineering oddity into the musical mainstream. Released in 1968, Switched On Bach brought Bach to life on a Moog synthesizer. The album emerged during a period in which electronic music was desperately searching for direction. The 60s counterculture movement was in full swing, giving rise to electronic music that reflected the unrestricted freedom of the era. Groovy, but not especially musical. At the same time, academic composers were creating music so radically avant-garde that even the most musically literate had trouble making sense of it. Sine waves, tape loops, and recordings of everyday sounds dominated the world of serious electronic music and created a hostile environment for composers and musicians who wanted to use electronic instruments in a more traditional manner. Wendy Carlos, who was born Walter Carlos but later changed her name and gender, experienced this hostility firsthand when she recorded Switched On Bach. A music and physics student at 2 Ivy League universities, Carlos encountered alienation and condescension from both students and faculty for her traditional musical values. Sensing that electronic instruments had developed a bad reputation, Carlos reasoned that if people were exposed to more traditional music, they would come to appreciate what electronic music had to offer. The recording industry agreed, with reviewers predicting that Switched On Bach would release electronic music from sounding like, and I quote, some obnoxious mating of a cat fight and a garbage compactor. As word spread about the album, musicians from every musical genre took notice. Switched On Bach became essential listening for anyone versed in electronic music. The album sparked interest in synthesized music from many accomplished popular musicians, including Keith Emerson and Stevie Wonder. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and the commercial success of Switched On Bach gave rise to literally hundreds of imitators, including Switched On Bacharach, Chopin à la Moog, Switched On Nashville Country Moog, and even Switched On Santa. Carlos herself went on to make many more recordings, including scores for the Stanley Kubrick films A Clockwork Orange and The Shining. Carlos' artistic efforts represent an incredible achievement, coaxing a genuinely musical performance from a machine whose electronic innards were very primitive. But her undisputed legacy is her influence on popular music, and the synthesizer in particular. Switched On Bach is still in music stores today, still serving as a delightful introduction to electronic music, not to mention a reminder that the music of Bach transcends not only time, but instrumentation. I'm Andy Boyd at the University of Houston, where we're interested in the way inventive minds work.